Now this is the fourth video on Mozart's Quintet for Piano and Winds in E-flat major, Kegel number 452, movement 1. And in the other videos I discussed the largo, the first 20 bars, the exposition, the development, and today in this video I'm going to look at the recapitulation. And we're going to see what happens in a recapitulation. Quickly recap what we discussed in the other videos. What is sonata form? So we're busy with sonata form. It's a way composers organize music, like how a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it was super popular in the classical period, especially with Mozart and Beethoven. Think of it like a musical story with 3 parts. So we have done the exposition, the beginning, where we met the characters. We heard 2 main themes or subjects, and the one was quite strong and confident, and the other one was like a friend or a rival. It was gentle and contrasting, and we also discovered that they had different keys. And in the middle we had a little bridge or a transition where it changed key. And easy words there. This is where the story begins and introduces who's who. The next video I discussed the development, the middle, where the adventure happened. So the music played around with the themes, like mixing them up, changing keys, adding drama. Sometimes it felt stormy and exciting, like something is going wrong and there's a problem to solve. So that's the development. Things happen there. The characters go on an adventure and things get tricky. Now our part for today is the recapitulation, the ending and the coda. We have an happy return. The original themes come back, but now they're both in the same key. It feels like coming home with everything resolved. Easy words, everyone comes back safe and the story ends peacefully. This recording, I'm going to mention the word cadenza. So a cadenza is like a musical solo moment where the performer, in this case it's going to be the piano, gets to show off. Imagine this, you're in the middle of a beautiful piece of music, suddenly everything stops. The orchestra goes quiet and now it's your time to shine. You play a super exciting solo full of fast notes, big leaps and impressive tricks. And important things to remember, a cadenza usually happens near the end of a movement, especially in concertos. Now in the classical time, it wasn't written out. So I want you to ask your teacher to show how they indicated on the score that a cadenza is going to happen there. Because people like Mozart, for instance, if they wanted a cadenza, they were brilliant in playing the piano, so they made up their own cadenza and they played. And usually we had like a pausa lunga or a fermata in the music. It was in the Romantic time that people started writing out cadenzas. It was often improvised in the old days, made up on the spot, but now it's usually written down. The orchestra waits quietly until you're done and then comes back with a big final chord. So that is the meaning of the word cadenza. What I also have in my notes, what does cadenza mean? It comes from the Italian and means something like cadence or ending, because it leads to the final part. So famous example, Mozart's Piano Concerto number 21. You can go and listen to that. It has a lovely cadenza where the piano takes over with amazing flourishes while the orchestra listens. So easy summary there. A cadenza is like a musical magic trick. Just you, your instrument, and everyone listening. Now the other word that we're going to find today is the coda. A coda is like a special ending in music. It tells everyone, this is it. The piece is almost done. What does coda mean? Coda is an Italian word. It's also a Latin word that means tail, like the tail end of a song. How does it work? It comes at the end of a piece of music. It's usually a bit different from the rest of the music, like a grand finale. You might see a sign that looks like this. Okay, the coda sign. telling the players to jump to the coda section. And easy example, let's say the music goes A, B, A, and then we have the coda. The coda is like the final little paragraph at the end of a story. Now, in this case, we have the largo, then we have the exposition, the development, the recapitulation, and then the coda. Does it sound like it can be quiet and peaceful, depending on the rest of the atmosphere that I have in the other part of the music? It can also be big and dramatic, like a very last few fireworks in a show. So we have Beethoven's Symphony No. 5. It's got a huge coda at the end. It's like a movement on its own, loud and powerful and exciting. A coda is the tail of the music. It's how the song or the music says goodbye. Recapitulation and coda. The movement concludes with a recapitulation of the main themes. So we had 2 subjects, now enriched by the development's explorations. A substantial coda follows, featuring spirited contributions from all the instruments, bringing the movement to a triumphant close. But now we know that there will not be a key change. Important that you mark all these different sections onto your score. So the recapitulation, we have the first subject, and that will be unchanged. It will be bars 82 to 91. That is the subject exactly like we had it with the exposition. Then the transition is only a few bars, so that is a shorter transition. And we know that the transition here doesn't have the purpose and function of moving to a different key. The second subject will now be in the original E flat major. And then we have the coda. So the recapitulation section with the first subject in the tonic, a transition which does not modulate, and a second subject in the tonic, and then we will look at the coda. So we're not going to listen to the music because now I only want you to look at what I'm showing you. So the first subject is from bars 82. It starts here, and you will see that I am in my tonic key, E flat, G, B flat. So that's the recapitulation. You see the dynamic markings marked in. I see crescendo. I will never have that in the Baroque. All these embellishments like the trills that's marked in, the forte and the piano. So 82 and 91 is exactly like I heard that in the first exposition. I see bar 86. I see the texture is quite thin and every instrument shines. And it's as if they imitate each other. And I see words like dolce, sweet, that I will not see in Baroque music. Okay, and I see that most of the music is diatonic, but that I have little chromatic changes, but it does not mean that I change keys. Next section, the transition 92 to 95, you see that everybody is involved there and that I have a dominant pedal. Okay, dominant of E flat, E, F, G, A, B flat. Got my dominant pedal, okay, in the bass. So everything happens on a very solid dominant bass pedal note. In here, you will see that the bass still stays with B flat, even if it's a little bit faster. And I have other things that shows me that this music is in the classical time. Forte piano, forte piano. First note is loud and then immediately soft. And another thing that I see is all the staccato markings, showing me that this is, especially with the piano. Remember with the harpsichord, everything sounded staccato because it was hammered. Everything is marked in. The staccatos, the phrase marks, I see everything there. Here we have the second subject, and it stays in E flat major. You see that. And while I have it here, just look at the difference of the texture. Sometimes I have like a call and response. So there I have all the woodwinds playing together, and the piano just giving a little bit of accompaniment. But the piano is always busy in this movement. Yes, and also look out for everything that you see that makes this music classical. Make it a little bit smaller that you can also see. I want you to train your eye to see that this pattern that the woodwinds played there is copied there in the piano part. You see? So before I make it bigger again, just look at your bar 97 and then go to this part in the piano. And you will see, but I have heard this pattern before because the music, little fragments are copied and I hear things again. So now we have the music bigger again, and that is that bar 101 that I just discussed. Okay, and he uses a lot of different rhythms. So I also want you to look at all your different note values. And again, we see the word dolce there. And here we see like a little imitation. Yes, where they copy each other. And that pattern that the piano played there, just see how that pattern is copied there. And that long sustained note that I heard there, I see here again. So I want you to train your eyes to look at all these things. Now in your Cambridge notes you will read that the piano has moments of cadenza-like material, improvised at the end of the introduction, notated in bars 103, third beat to 106. So cadenza, I discussed cadenza with you, and you will see that everybody, that they're just listening, they're not playing. And the piano has got quite a difficult part to play like that. The piano is going to shine there. See that in bars 105 to 106. The woodwinds are not playing, they're just listening to the piano there. So I have a little bit of a cadenza there. And in bar 107, they start playing again. And they're all busy. So, and you will see that we have that triplet movement coming in. And look at the scale. And the offbeats, you see. So there we have a little bit of syncopation, like I discussed in the first video. And with that note carrying over there, I also have syncopation. And look at everything that you will not see in the classical time. Now on the Cambridge papers, they also mention the word crescendo, and that I see in bars 110. I've marked it in for you. And in bar 112 and in 113, you see the word crescendo. So that was marked in by the composer. Crescendo, I see that. And then legato is also marked in. That pattern nearly looks like an Alberti bass pattern. I highlighted this to just show you how you have to look at your theory as well. E flat, G, B flat, D flat. Okay, so I have, what do I have? E, G, B flat, D flat. It's like a dominant seventh. Okay, so look at that as well, that you can start recognizing that. And I also see all the different rhythmical patterns. Dolce, the embellishments, another dominant seventh, and then we have the coda. So the coda is the final, and it's from bar 118, the third beat to 122. And we have everybody playing at the end, and I see a perfect cadence. Okay, and everything ends strong. So I think that you will understand the exposition now, the development now, and the recapitulation. And I want you to look at everything that you see that is not Baroque. And go through your Cambridge papers, and good luck with your studies.